Here's James Morrow, the Daily Telegraph's national political editor, and Nicholas Rees is the Deputy Mayor of Melbourne, to talk about this and a whole lot more. So, lads, you can respond to my long weekend, Lilo-infused musings from the Gold Coast, or tell me what you think is the future for Victoria. Let's start with you first, James.
Well, my thoughts for the future of Victoria is that it's going to have to get a lot worse before it starts to get better. The fact of the matter is that they have just voted back in this very left-wing, very socialist, very high-spending, very anti-freedom government that has got all sorts of really loony policies that are going to bite when it comes to energy and climate and the cost of living and debt that the whole state is going to have to pay off. So, all of those things that you spoke about, I thought was very eloquent, Paul, about the values and how the values have shifted over time. Well, part of the fact is that some of those values are among a generation that have not had any sort of, hardship, recession, things of that nature really in their lives. So they can have some of these luxury boutique sort of, airy-fairy sort of views. But then, when reality bites, some of those views are going to change. And I'm afraid you look at Victoria, you see how it's going elsewhere in the world. Victoria, and in fact, I'm afraid probably all of Australia, is going to go down the same road of energy crisis and other dislocations. But, there are some bright spots for the Libs there. The Teal candidates, or the Karens as some people call them, didn't seem to get up there. There was some success in regional Victoria, and it was not as bad for the Libs as everybody says. So my advice to the Libs is, actually figure out what you stand for and don't listen to everybody who says the solution is just simply to go further and further left.
Yeah, I mean, also, Nicholas, again, do you want to respond to my kind of, as I said, the Lilo musings of a guy who was just able to think a little bit over the weekend, or you want to take the victory lap? Where are you?
No, look, I'll actually start by saying I really enjoyed your editorial tonight, Paul. I found it fascinating, and even though, you and I often disagree on political matters, I always enjoy our conversations. I found what you had to say there very interesting. Look, if I was going to give a hard-nosed assessment about what happened in Victoria over the weekend, I think I'd have to start by saying that the pundits got it completely wrong, and the polls actually got it right. News poll there was predicting Labor primary 38, Liberal primary 35. The actual vote on the day ended up being Labor 37, Liberal 35. So they were almost bang on. But the narrative that was running out there through the media, and it wasn't just the Murdoch media, it was running through most of the media, was that Daniel Andrews was in deep trouble. As it was, he may end up winning the same number of seats, although in different places, to what he started the election campaign with. Then there was this sort of big narrative running about the Teals were coming and this independent wave was coming. Well, in fact, the independents went backwards in the parliament in this election. In fact, the big winner was probably the Nationals, who picked up 3 independent seats in the regions, and the Teal wave through the leafy suburbs does not seem to have materialised. Then there was the Greens. There was a big prediction that there was a Green slide coming, as Samantha Ratnam, the leader of the Greens, actually called it on election night. Turns out they won 1 extra seat.
Whoa, what a slide!
If that's a Green slide, I'd hate to see what a sort of modest victory look like, or a modest gain look like. So, look, I agree with everything you said philosophically. I agree with you. I thought your analysis was really interesting. One important point you left out, and I think it does need to be called out here, and it's this, that whatever you say about Daniel Andrews and his policies and his philosophy and all that, we heard quite a bit from James Morrow on that topic, I think most people would agree that he's a very good political communicator, and he has been the dominant political figure, certainly in Victoria, of his generation, and it has spilled over into national politics as well. And there is a thing in politics where if you don't necessarily agree with a person, but you think they've got conviction and they put their case very well, then voters do tend to flock with them. I think you saw it with John Howard, 2 decades ago, and I think you see something similar there with Daniel Andrews in contemporary times.